Thanks for joining me. Today I got my new laptop, so it's my first show with Rory here with the new laptop, and I think I hit on it. So I'm really hoping that things are a little better than they were last week and the week before. So should be good. The only issue I have today is I broke my tooth. So if my tooth comes flying out, I apologize. But I got Fixident. Today is sponsored by Fixident, and forget it. So we'll see. All right, let's break down Atlanta. We're going to talk about yesterday. This is a race where it's going to be whoever's a good, I don't want to say super speedway racer because it's not super speedway. It's more of an intermediate hybrid. Your car's going to have to handle. It's not as much like a Talladega or Daytona. So it's not going to be solely, who has the best, all out low drag car. So yesterday was a perfect example of how you had to work together to win that race. Nobody wanted to work together at the end, and that's why Austin Hill won, thankfully. But the Fords just didn't seem to want to link together, and Riley Herbst and Brett Moffitt decided to do whatever they wanted to do, and that costed them a chance at the win. And the same thing comes with Kligerman and Colleague Racing with Daniel Hellmich. So this is going to be a race where teammates are going to be really important. And
don't forget JRM running into each other again.
Yeah. So this is going to be a race where I think it's going to be like a Hendrick Motorsports. You got to stick together. And, is Joe Gibbs Racing going to stick together? I don't know. What do you think, Rory?
I think we'll see more alliance in the Cup Series, especially with Trackhouse. I think either one of them would love to see the other one, whoever it may be, at the end win. I could see Hendrick working well together. I can even see Penske working well together. I mean, hell, they usually Ryan Blaney usually is the person that helps whoever win all these races half the time, especially at super speedways. I mean, he's pushed I don't know how many people to win and come in second, and that I would rather have a guy like that instead of a guy that's going to freaking wreck your ass right there at the end. If I like having, look at Larson earlier this year with Stenhouse. I just feel like you see more guys willing to, they kind of have enough common sense to know, I'm probably not going to win this, but maybe they don't like the person that's leading the damn race, and they're like, I'm going to shove the hell out of whoever it is in front of me and give them a shot at winning. I mean, that's how it's supposed to be. Like, you can't do it all on your own at these types of tracks. And I don't know what the hell Hemrick was thinking right there at the end. They could have put an end to Austin Hill's dominance on these types of tracks, at least so much as taking the win away from him right there. Because I feel like Kligerman had just as good of a car as Hill. They were about tit for tat equal yesterday.
Even with the Fords, like you saw Riley Herbst and Brett Moffitt just went two separate directions.
Yeah.
Like they both could have got top threes, and one of them could have won if they would have just locked in.
It doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense with them neither. I mean, you're only talking about what, like 4 Fords in the Xfinity Series?
Yeah, you had 2 Fords in the top 4 with 2 to go. Why are you not working together? It just makes zero sense. And that's what makes the Cup Series different than anything else. The Fords will stick together today, and so will the Chevys. And that's why I think, like last year with the dominance that the 9 and the 24 had at this track, was because they were willing to work together and they weren't going to cut each other off. They were going to push each other. And that's why last year, I think they led 276 laps. Hendrick Motorsports led. And that's because of loyalty. They knew their line, and, they weren't going to race for, they weren't going to risk losing the race to somebody else. And that's important. And that's something that I think maybe the Fords with like Penske will really put together, and Joey Logano really owes Blaney one. Could this be Blaney's win that he desperately needs? Absolutely. But Joey Logano's got to be loyal like he was to him last year. So Blaney could be a winner here if Joey comes to the race saying to himself, let's get Blaney this win. Let's get him in the playoffs. And let me be loyal to my teammate that helped me win the championship last year. So this could be the first race where he gets that payback in a good way.
Yeah, my curious thing with Blaney is they already have enough problems getting on and off pit road at a normal place. I'm just curious of how well they're going to handle pitting today, as far as like maybe getting busted for speeding missing pit road entrance. You know, you name it, those guys can do it over there at Penske on that 12 car in the pits.
But Rory, how many green flag pit stops do you think they're going to have today?
That's the thing. I'm curious. Like, yeah, that if they can, I think the Cup guys though are going to stay green longer than than the Xfinity and trucks.
And tires aren't going to be as important, so I don't know if I'd really put pit stops into a consideration, considering most of their stops are going to be green.
I'm just waiting on that, you know, that one wrong situation where people early pit or whatever, and the next thing you know, caution comes out, and now you're definitely not getting. You're going to be down at least a lap, even if you take the waiver out.
Yeah, that's why I really think that people are going to stay away from green flag pitting today.
Yeah. Any way possible, they're going to try to avoid that for sure. I mean, did they do one green flag in Xfinity yesterday in that final stage, or was it always caution? It was always caution.
There were so many cautions yesterday, so it was.
I knew the fucking trucks didn't even come close.
Yeah, it was. I think it's gonna be more of the same today. I think there's gonna be a lot less. You know, there's gonna be a ton of wrecks today.
Well, if you didn't have them stupid ass stages in it, you could get a green flag pit stop out of this. I mean, it would that's two right there that automatically, like, they have put into their strategy of how long they can go on fuel, what's going on here, like, and it probably is going to be the same disaster. I mean,
well, not to mention the track conditions are going to be a little colder than it normally would be. You know, this isn't your natural Atlanta where you're going to get 70 degrees, maybe 60 degrees. It's like 41 degrees today. So the track's gonna be cold. You're gonna get a lot of wrecks. I mean, unfortunately, you're gonna get wrecks with this style racing to begin with, but I think it's just gonna intensify. So let's jump into some odds. So last year with the dominance for Hendrick Motorsports, I think I'm gonna go with William Byron today. 3 in a row. He's on a hot streak. That team seems to be hitting on all cylinders. The 9 and the 24 both dominated here last year. They led 276 laps. I just talked to Roy about it. Top 3 plus 300 for William Byron, I think is great. You know, it could come down to the final run, and he's not going to want to wreck the field. Just want to push his teammate to the lead, maybe win the race. So I like him at plus, 10-1. Sorry, I can't talk. These teeth really mess me up. So 10-1. The last thing I want this thing is go flying out. I'll never live that one up. So 10-1, I like William Byron at, and plus 300 for top 5. Also, the car that dominated last year, I know it's a different driver. I know he's Josh Berry. I know he's only got a couple weeks in this car. This is his time to shine. And this is the track that it's a great equalizer. And he's a good race car driver. And this car was fast last year. At 50-1, Rory, you got him at what? Plus 6.
I have him at plus 500 top 10. I grabbed that early in the week. It's plus 290 now. I think him and LaJoie both are right around plus 290 now, and I have both of them at plus 500 top 10.
So we're talking about Josh Berry here. And at plus 700 for top 5. For a car that dominated this race last year, and I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Chase Elliott, and I don't think Josh Berry is that much worse than Chase Elliott. I'm sorry, I'm not a huge Chase Elliott fan, but these tracks, it's mostly car. So can he get a top 10? Absolutely. I think Rory's going to cash that ticket as long as he can keep all 4 wheels on it. And I think a top 5 is great at plus 700. Can he win? He needs help. And is William Byron going to be willing to push him to the win without, or I don't know if the 48 is going to be up there. He really wasn't competitive here both times. I mean, he was top 10, but he never really showed a lot of speed. Yes, I think Josh Berry at 50-1 is a steal, and
yeah, that's why I jumped on Berry. I mean, I started putting 2 and 2 together. I was like, well, you're arguably talking about definitely the best car here at the second race. And Josh Berry isn't a bad driver, and he's not a driver that's going to try to put himself into screwed up situations. Make it to the end, knows he has a fast car. What if we lose probably 10 cars throughout this whole race? Like, if people start, if it gets turned into a shit show, I mean, we're talking about wiping out, maybe even top drivers get wiped out. I mean, we've seen it time and again. get bump drafted in the wrong spot, whatever. And I mean, it's sometimes a race of survival more than it is. I have an awesome car. Maybe I'll just sit back here for a little while, and I know I can get through the field too when it matters. If put yourself in the right spots, I definitely feel like he's going to be available there at the end for a top 10. If he can finish top 10 at Phoenix, he can freaking finish top 10 here at Atlanta.
Well, and what I keep explaining to people is this is his job interview. Like he wants to be in the Cup Series, so he wants to prove to people he's a great teammate. He wants to prove to people that he belongs here. So if he could push one of those HMS cars to the win, who's to say that he can't be in line for that 48 car coming up? Or this is a great opportunity for him, and I think he doesn't want to destroy a race car. So I can see him being super conservative and very loyal to his teammates. So at plus 50, plus 700 for top 5, and you got it what for top 10?
Plus 500,
yeah,
top 10.
You're
I mean, it was it was gone after maybe yesterday or day before. I forgot when it changed, but I had to jump on that. I mean, I'm just looking at a guy that I trust that I don't think is going to make a whole lot of mistakes. And like I said, if he ran well last week and got up into the top 10 right there at the end at Phoenix. So he definitely, if Hendrick doesn't have any pit road issues and they all nail the pit stops, if they have to on green and they're all together, or let's say they stay out at some point where everybody pits or is somehow off strategy and they're packed together, like you said, he's going to be a guy that sticks with those guys, that just wants to get to the end of this race and have a good finish, not wreck the whole damn field.
Okay, so that's where I think loyalty is gonna come into. So we're gonna jump onto somebody else that we both agree with that's gonna be there. That this is the one race where it's a race where I hate to say this is only maybe one of the handful of races he can win a year. And coming from Hendrick Motorsports, we're going to talk about Corey LaJoie, somebody who should have won this race last year, but was wrecked by a Hendrick Motorsports car, who was aggressively blocking, and was probably one of my biggest losses of the year because I had him at plus 125, and that would have been a monster day. Thank you, Chase Elliott, for destroying my hopes and dreams.
I had him top 3 that day too with the outright.
So did I. And I thought I was cashing that ticket. So we're talking about Corey LaJoie here, and he's 66-1 on Bet 364. I found him at 50-1 on Barstool. 365, close enough. Round up.
You'll be happy when y'all get them. Y'all don't have them yet?
No, nope.
You'll be happy.
Yeah, they sound like they're not as good as the other books are.
They run live odds nonstop on Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup, all the way up until like 10 laps, 15 laps to go. A lot of times,
Barstools used to do that, and when they first started doing NASCAR, whoever was doing DraftKings didn't really know what they were doing. So I would be it's crazy that I got to say this, but I'd be able to cash out tickets for wrecked cars with like 10 to go. I was like,
no, they're not that bad. They adjust them and stuff, and your cash out value, like they jump on it. They pay better. I've seen that what you're talking about before happen too with some books. They do pay attention, but I will give it to them. That's where I go to and just sit over and watch Trucks and Xfinity. I know you can get more places Cup Live, but they're hard to beat on Trucks and Xfinity.
Yeah, so a lot of places don't do Trucks and Xfinity Live, which, going back to live again, maybe if this is one of them races where you want to sit out and just wait to see who misses the first big couple of wrecks. And then there's 30 cars left and you got a better opportunity to see who's available, because I don't see the lines moving that much. So you might be able to still pick up like a Ross Chastain at 10-1, who I think is going to be there as well. So maybe you want to wait till live and see if you can get them maybe at 8-1 opposed to 10-1, and then you missed the first big wreck, and your odds are better in that situation. Now, if you're going to take somebody that's a long shot, like a Justin Haley at 60-1, a Burton at 100-1, a Ty Gibbs at 80-1, LaJoie at 50-1, Barry to 51, go in there and do it now, because you're not going to get better odds than that. It's only going to go negative. So if you're going to bet long shots, bet it now, bet it early, bet it often. long shots you should have bet on Tuesday, to be honest with you. So if you're still waiting and those odds are still in your favor, lock it in now, because as soon as that race goes green, Josh Berry's in the top 5 or top 10. Good night. You're going to pay 10-1. So you just gave up a huge chunk of change. So anybody else you like in particular? I was just talking about Ross Chastain. I was wondering what your take is on him a little bit.
I already have Mellon. I grabbed him at 12 earlier this week. I probably should have waited on him, but I had a feeling this might be his best qualifying place possibly, and it wasn't. I guessed it wrong. I can get it at 14 now, but I still at 12, whatever. That's who I had in my mind was winning this week coming in. I mean, he was arguably the best car at both Atlanta races last year, and the car was tore all to hell on top of that. So he can get through a field on a super speedway style track, and he can get through the field on a 1.5 mile track as well. I mean, he's had plenty of speed, coming out early this year, especially at California, but he's been good everywhere else. So I expect Trackhouse to show up today.
He's just going to need help at the right times, and that's unfortunately how this race is going to play out, and like you were just saying, but he didn't qualify as good. I wouldn't be worried about that. This is one of them races where people are, they don't want to go all out and have an aggressive setup. So they might went a little more conservative. And I would feel more comfortable if my driver did qualify 14th to 20th, to be honest. I don't want
to tell you what, like, you need handling here if you're back in the field and having to come up through there. And I think that's where Trackhouse excels at a place like this, because him and Suarez both were good last year here. I mean, they could race, not so much go out there and lay down the fastest qualifying lap, but when it came time to where you do start wearing a little bit of tires and handling becomes more involved, and let's say you throw out a run, you're getting a little bit lighter on the tank and the ass end of the car and whatnot, it comes into play here. And I think both of those cars are going to be awesome today. I think they're going to be in the top 10 all day long. I can totally see that, if not leading up front for the majority of this race. And like I said, I think Trackhouse is an organization that works well together, and they have a good atmosphere over there. It's hard to beat the atmosphere that those guys have created over there at Trackhouse. It's a team. Everybody works together over there, it seems like, and it's helping them excel. That's why they have became one of the top organizations.
So we're talking about Ross Chastain, obviously. So he's at plus 1,200 right now, which I think it's great odds. I think he should have been one of the favorites coming in. And top 3 plus 350. You know me, I love my top 3s, top 5s. So that right there is one of the ones that I'm going to be banging. Top 3 for 350, and I'm going to also go the 24 car, William Byron, plus 300. So those are two that I'm going to hope balance out my day. And
I like both of those.
And then get a little aggressive with some long shots here, like a Justin Haley at plus 60.
Don't you feel like at Atlanta you can play a more favorite top 3 and it be successful and you have confidence in it than, let's say, like at Daytona and Talladega? Like me, I wouldn't want to take a guy at plus 300 top 3 at Daytona and Talladega, where I don't mind taking them here at Atlanta, because I think it's more of a driver's track.
Yes, absolutely. But I can assure you that I will not be betting as much as I did last week at Phoenix. It's still a gamble.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I pretty much cut my to win, except on a couple of guys. I made an exception because of the odds that I got on them. But I kind of capped everything at winning 5 units this week on my outrights versus I normally go for 10 units. That way I could spread them out a little bit and have a few more drivers in this coming in, where a lot of weeks I'm only looking at 1 or 2 drivers going in, and then I bet the rest of it live.
We could sit here all day and tell you who's going to have the fastest car and who's the best plate racer, but I can't say plate. Super speedway, intermediate, hybrid track. I'm going to just start calling the hybrid. So
that's what I call it.
Yes, you still got to get lucky. You still got to stay out of the big wreck, because the big wreck is going to happen. I don't think these cars you're going to see as many wrecks as you did in the Truck Series or even in the Xfinity Series. I think these cars are a little more stuck to the track. I think they have a lot more downforce. If they
Yes.
would have came with last week's package, let's have some fun because that would have been the chaos. So,
Man, that would be a shit show here
right?
at this mug with that low downforce package. I would like to see that actually. If that would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
What
So
do
I
you
think
think? What do you think about old Brad K? I got him at plus 2,000.
I like Brad, but he's got to bring down the intensity and the aggression a little bit.
I know
And
it scares the ever living shit out of me having him because I know how aggressive he is, but he's in a fast ass car.
absolutely. And I can guarantee you, you're either going to win or you're going to wreck.
Yeah, that's my my take on him.
I would not
That's a
recommend
good
a top 3 or top 5 on him because if he is third, he is not going to be happy. He's getting
Mark,
desperate and he wants to win a race. Bad.
Mark in Mississippi says 83. That's why I'm wearing the Bass Pro hat. We put the Fairleigh Dickinson money line money on 83 live while we were recording the other night because 83 got brought up, and I'm sitting here and I'm looking and I'm like, oh my God, Fairleigh Dickinson is really going to win this game. And I took them live at halftime, 7-1 to win, I think is what it was.
That's great.
And yeah, we ended up dumping on 83. A little bit of change there at 40.
There you go.
I
Well,
mean, I don't know.
this is a race with long shots. Like this is the one. This is like the great equalizer. So this is your shot to try to hit a long shot. Like yesterday with Brett Moffitt. You know, I'll take 100-1 on him all day, knowing he's a good plate rate. He's a good intermediate super speedway, whatever we want to
Plates,
call it.
restrictor plates is
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. Tapered spacer. I got to get away from saying plates. I just gotta. So it's like I'll take 100-1. I'll take a 60-1. I'll take a LaJoie at 50-1 because this is their one shot, and these people want it bad. If I'm going to take an outright, I want somebody that's going to win or destroy the race car. So going with Brad Keselowski, I want somebody that I know is just as desperate as I am. So I don't want, if I'm going to take a top 3 like a William Byron who needs points now with the big hit they took, he needs a consistent, calm week, get through. He's already got his win, so he's not as desperate. I want somebody that's desperate at a long shot to win. I don't want somebody that's going to be happy with second.
No.
So
I think the guys that I have for the most part, and like I said, I can take exception out of this. If Mi Amigo and Chastain are locked up at the end 1-2, I expect for them possibly to stay, I would think they're going to stay with each other in that situation. Unless just one of them gets one hell of a run and it's just the right opportunity to come down, get a push from behind, something like that. So, but I like both of them because they are both aggressive as well. Like, I think they want to win this race. It's like Brad. I mean, I think Brad and Penske are getting better at a lot of tracks that they struggled at early on last year. But let's face it, Brad knows outside of Daytona, Talladega, here, and possibly Bristol, where else is he going to win a race at this year? And I mean, unless something really changes, you got to jump on it.
I think last week RFK showed a lot of speed with this new package.
Yes.
So I could see them being very competitive at some of these intermediates, maybe a Loudon, maybe a Martinsville.
Loudon would be interesting with him, the way that he ran last week and as good as he used to run at Loudon.
And Fords have been pretty strong at Loudon to begin with. So that could be the one track that, leading in, if he's, 30-1, 40-1, you might want to think about that and locking it in early in the week before practice starts, because it's going to be the same package. And he had a solid top 5, top 3 car most of the day. And, that last restart, he missed a shift or whatever it was. I don't know if it was mechanical or it was him. Something happened and he lost a great finish that they deserved. Now, leaving that track with that happening and disappointment, he could win this race today.
They have to be really excited with how well he ran last week. I mean, take away the bad finish. I mean, I know that's disappointing. That has to be something that they have to be happy about over there, because I think Brad's still got a few years left in the tank. I think Brad Keselowski's a good driver. He's just had to go over to an organization and basically revamp the whole entire thing. Like, it needed an overhaul and a change, and Jack Roush is getting older, and it needed somebody young to come in there and upstart this thing and get it going in a positive direction.
So leading into today, I mean, don't sleep on Brad K, RFK, and even Chris Buescher. I mean, Brad's 20-1. They always show up at super speedways. I don't view this to be much different. I mean, I know they're going to have a little bit of a different setup leak coming in, but at the end of the day, you know, some cars just teams draft better than others, and for whatever reason, RFK is always there. I mean, they were really fast at Daytona. I don't know what's Buescher's odds.
25.
25. So I think those are fair.
Brad's fell to 14, I think.
And he opened at what? 11?
20 and 18, 18 and 20. Yeah. So he's jumped on up there to 14.
So that's one of those teams where loyalty is very important too. So I could see Buescher and him sticking together most of the race, just like you were just talking about with Trackhouse and Hendrick. You know, some teams are a little. Gibbs seems like they're just chaotic lately. I mean, in the past, they used to be very loyal to one another. But I can tell you this much right now. Ty Gibbs is 80-1 right now. Anybody that pushes Ty Gibbs to the win today is going to get a 3-year extension. So, like, if I'm second behind Ty Gibbs, I am making sure that I am.
Hey, Ty Gibbs won the Xfinity race here.
And that was a wreck fest, though.
I know it was. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like I like Gibbs better here at Atlanta than I do at Daytona and Talladega.
Absolutely. And at 80-1, why not take a flyer on them? You know, it's not impossible, but they have to work together. And they something's going on to Joe Gibbs. I don't know what it is. Just seems like they're pulling in 4 different directions. And
does it feel like to you that place is turning into a complete chaotic shit show?
Yes. And I don't know this for a fact. It's just a feeling that I have. I could see them selling maybe a charter and getting away from a 14.
Man, I think the same damn thing because Joe's getting old. And, I mean, what are we talking about here? This 21-year-old kid's going to get left everything? I mean, that's the way it's.
I mean, they're going to be faced with 2 big decisions in this offseason. Truex most likely is going to be done, in my opinion. And then you got, now you got Gibbs, who's young.
Then you got JHN and Sammy Smith moving up next year. Like.
Then Denny's probably gone.
That's what I'm thinking. Denny's either gonna start his own charter up. He's got to buy one for 2311, right? So what if he buys Gibbs' charter and just starts racing for himself?
Well, that's what he would have to do. You know?
So I can totally see it where 2311 has also gotten involved in running. They ran a third car, right?
And if you're
times with Pastrana.
Yeah.
And I think, do they have somebody in road course next week at Coda in 2311's car? I don't know.
They did originally have, last name starts with an R. Who was it? I can't remember now. But they've already showed that they have interest in starting a third team. So, Denny's not going to run in an open race, so they would have to get a charter from somebody. And I could see Gibbs taking a step backwards. I really do. I don't think they're going to get better value for a charter down the road. I think if they're going to sell it, it's got to be now. I really think the charter is peaked, especially with the world's changing, with the banking system completely crumbling, but that's for another show, another day. But I think now's the time to sell that 4th charter if you really do want to take a step backwards. And I think Joe Gibbs might be there in his career. He's 80 years old. I mean, unfortunately lost 2 of his sons that he had hoped that would take over the team. So we'll see. I mean, they're in a huge transition period, and not being competitive is it's tough to swallow. And Ty Gibbs today is 80-1, and top 5 is 10-1. I think that might be a decent bet. I think, if he's going to get in the victory lane this year, it's going to be in a race like this because he's really struggling at every other track. So,
I mean, it seems awful lot like to me that Bell's getting put in the best equipment.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, you can't say that because Ty Gibbs is in the best equipment that Gibbs has. Unfortunately, he's just in a growing process. Ty Gibbs is not going out there with worse cars. They're the equivalent of Bell. Them two have A1 and A2,
Right.
So the other 2 cars are obviously the back on the back burner, which is something I never would have expected that to say Truex and Denny Hamlin are not getting the best equipment. But who would have thought that Kyle Busch wouldn't be getting the best equipment? And that obviously happened, So
my thought on Truex is he's getting a lot of money for coming back for one more year just to ride around.
yeah, and he's the kind of person that wouldn't announce his retirement. He wouldn't want what Kevin Harvick's doing right now. I don't think, in my opinion. I don't think he wants the parade. I think he just wants to exit out slowly like a Carl.
Kevin Harvick's kind of like a legend.
Too. Yeah.
I mean, Truex is a good driver that has a championship, but Kevin Harvick, as far as like the whole package, the media personality, the sponsors, taking over Dale Earnhardt's ride in 01 and backing it up with success. I mean, he is one of the greatest drivers to ever get in a car. And I mean, I think if you go by the final point standings, if the points were like they used to be, Kevin Harvick would have 4 championships. I think that explains a lot about how good of a driver Kevin Harvick is.
I will not argue that.
But I agree with you on the front that I don't think Martin Truex wants that kind of attention drawn upon himself neither.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a negative towards Kevin Harvick because he deserves it, absolutely. And, this might be a farewell for Rodney as well. I think maybe, he might take a Chad Knaus, maybe he doesn't want to travel no more because you get that late in your career, you don't want to do that no more. Like Chad, he wanted his family, Rodney's also got young kids. So this could be the farewell tour for the both of them. Rodney can now be the GM or the competition director, just.
It's starting to seem that way, I think, a whole lot with this whole just ending right here because I could totally see him taking over like shop operations and watching over everything there. That would be who I would want looking over.
That's great for that whole team. That would make bring everybody up. I mean, it is no coincidence that Hendrick Motorsports is now back to the upper echelons with Chad Knaus in the garage. They're on overseeing all the teams. I mean, granted, what happened last week, it's going to happen.
I like Chad's response.
Yeah, blame on that. But he's the best at what he does, and so is Rodney. And that's why, I would much rather have those minds in my garage looking over all 4 of my teams opposed to one guy. Because when he's dealing with just Kevin Harvick, he ain't sharing as much with them. I mean, he does, but he'd be foolish to. You got to race against him. So to get him in the garage full time, I think that's something that Stewart-Haas needs to grow to get back to a better organization. I mean, I'm not saying they're bad, but they're just not where they used to be. They definitely made a step backwards. I don't know why. And, they got everything they need financially. They're not underfunded like RFK was for a while. So I'd like to see Rodney take over a role like that and bring them back.
Zane Smith go to the 4.
I think that's the best possibility,
Yes.
except unless I know you don't want to hear this, but Riley Herbst.
I'm not the one that doesn't want to hear it.
I'm saying people like
I'm a Riley guy. Hey, 5 top 10s.
He's got to win some races this year.
5 top 10s and 2 top 5s to start the year, and we had people talking about Cole Custer going to win 10 races. And who's the better driver right now?
Absolutely.
I mean, Herbst has grown. He's grown.
Yeah, he looked really good yesterday.
The maturity. Like, he's not tearing up shit like he used to.
Absolutely. No, he looked really good. He looked really good this year. And I think he knows down deep that if he puts it together and could have a solid season, maybe win a championship, he's got all that money behind him. He's got Monster. He could be in that 4 car or in the 41 car and Priest goes to the 4, or if Priest collapses and doesn't have a good year. I don't know. I don't want to root against Priest because I think he's one of the best drivers in that team, but he needs to have a good year too because you don't want people breathing down your neck, especially with a Zane Smith coming up who deserves a cup ride. But I don't want to see Zane Smith in that 38 car. Like, I want to see him in a good car.
Yes.
Look what happened to John Hunter when he won that 38. He was really competitive, but he's a better driver than that. And if he goes to, say, the 11 car next year, he's going to be in competition to win races every week. So
it's really no different than Priest in the 37. Was it the 37
exactly.
he was in? I mean, he really has never been given just that. Here's best equipment. Here it is, keys to it, full season, and actually gotten it in the trucks or Xfinity, you know. And John Hunter's almost been like that his whole damn life, trying to drive, you know, for Nemechek Motorsports and do it on your own. And Nemechek finally gets put in some KBM equipment that's good, and he shows really what he can do. And then now he's in arguably the best equipment in the garage. I mean, I think Gibbs has their Xfinity program
Yes,
on point right now. So,
absolutely.
I mean, yeah, that's the biggest thing. I mean, it's so many drivers that have been shitted on or get shitted on throughout their whole entire career, though, that it's all about marketability, sponsorship. I mean, you take a guy like Brett Moffitt, a damn champion in the Truck Series, and look what he did yesterday. Like, and look what he's been doing this whole season, and that ain't on running on the best equipment in the garage. That's driver.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to Priest, so today Priest is 50-1. This is a track that Priest could win, you know, but Stewart Haas needs to work together. You know, they need to all pull in the same direction. You know, the 14, the 4. I mean, I know they want to get, you know, at least one of those drivers locked in early. You know, because once you get one locked in, then you don't have to worry as much, and you could spend resources on other cars. So I look for a big team day today, and I look for teams to work together and share. And if whoever wins this race is going to be pushed in by a teammate, in my opinion.
Do you
So
think it's a possibility of Stewart Haas selling a charter?
no,
No, I think they
no
have enough forward
resource.
funding and a couple of young drivers that they can throw in there that it won't be a problem to
Yeah,
keep.
and you got two owners there, and then, you know, it sounds to me like Tony and Gene Haas don't actually agree on a lot of things. So it'd be hard for both of them to come to the table and say, "Hey, we're going to sell a charter," unless it was something financially where it's, you know, we can get $30 million for it, and we foresee 5 years down the road it's going to be back to 20. So no, I don't foresee. The only reason I say Joe Gibbs, to be exact, is because I think Joe Gibbs is just, I think he's done. He doesn't have that fire that I used to see, you know, like I think he's just going through the motions. I think he really wanted this for his sons. I think it's devastating that he can't, you know. So if Ty's going to run this team, can Ty race and run a 4-car team? I don't think it's possible. And it's nothing against Ty. I don't think anybody in this world could do it.
Ty doesn't have enough experience
He's
with this.
21.
I mean,
if you gave me that team at 21, it'd be bankrupt. And
yeah, if you're talking about a guy like 35 and up, like like Denny, I think he's very well capable of going over there and racing. Now, I mean, I look at him going out. I don't think Denny Hamlin's the same driver that he was even 2 or 3 years ago. I see a little bit of fall off right now, and I'm almost wondering if him and Truex just kind of like get shitted on like Truex and KFB did last year, because they're not coming back. They're older. They're not a focal point of the organization, and they better be worried about letting Christopher Bell run some damn extracurricular races over there, because it sounded like he wasn't too damn thrilled.
well, another thing too is with Denny Hamlin, how much is his regression is distraction? You know,
Yeah,
he is no doubt one of the few drivers that has so much on his plate. Like, and who else is out there racing against their teammates or their team? Last week, I saw a couple situations with him and Reddick where I saw him give Reddick a lot more room than he would have anybody else, like a Ross Chastain. But that's anybody, not just Ross. But he let Reddick go at one point, which that's not something Denny Hamlin does ever. You know, last year, I'm not trying to say that he gave that win to Bubba, but could he have caught Bubba? You know, like
right.
he he's more worried about that team than his own. And I think people at Joe Gibbs realize that. And why would you want somebody in your team that has a hidden interest in somebody else that he's racing against weekly? I personally, if I'm Joe Gibbs, I let him walk. I don't want him on my team. That's
Yeah.
not good. And not just that, sharing information. How much information is he getting, or how much are they not sharing with him because they don't want him taking it back to his team and beating them? Like, I know you have an alliance, but there comes a fine line when the alliance becomes a hindrance. Like with Front Row, Furniture Row. Furniture Row was beating Joe Gibbs and their equipment. You know, like that has to destroy you as a team and you're
getting your ass kicked by this Colorado NASCAR shop over there because their crew chief is a badass.
yes. So this is
I
this is
mean,
another example of that. They don't want 23-11 beating them weekly. So I think this is Denny's last year with them. This is my personal opinion. I have nothing other than if I own Joe Gibbs Racing and I lost FedEx, I would also say, unfortunately, Denny, the money's not there, and we got to
they're
go.
losing FedEx.
Oh, 100%.
FedEx is done.
Mhm.
I mean, I heard something about maybe partialing, but I mean, they're already selling out. They're selling races, to other teams, well, other sponsors to put on the car, like whatever they're gaining off of that. I think they all know they're done, and it's just one of those things. I mean, FedEx really ain't doing all that great by my understanding of talking to the guy where I work at. Like they're having layoffs and this and that, I'm pretty sure. So it's kind of hard to explain putting 20-30 million dollars on into a cup car and you're laying people off.
Absolutely. So, anybody else you like for today? Anybody else that jumped off the page at you other than the people that we talked about? I mean, like a tie gives it 80-1. I like going back to what I was saying earlier. Today, let's have some fun. Let's do some long shots. I mean,
I think Noah would
yeah,
be interesting. I mean, I don't know. At the number, was he 80?
yeah.
Get
Listen,
him at 80, whatever. I mean, I think he's gonna try to get up there here. Now, if he gets himself into some shit and wrecks, that's just what how it is. But like you were just talking about Gibbs and whoever else, I mean, this is the week for those guys to try to get their asses up there and getting some kind of shape to, hey, I got a chance to win this damn thing right here.
or get in the playoffs without the top 30. You don't need to be in the
Yeah.
top 30 in points anymore. This is basically the golden ticket for anybody that doesn't belong in the playoffs to get in there. And they'll do whatever they can to get there. I mean, if you're like a Burton, Harrison Burton today, you're 100-1. You're sitting second. Second doesn't do you anything. You need to win this race. And unfortunately, whoever's in first is going to go bye-byes if that's me, because this is your one shot. So second ain't going to be good for a Harrison Burton today, or a Justin Haley, or even a Corey LaJoie, or even a Ty Dillon. But they got to get to the front first.
One matchup I did find, it's a stage 1 matchup, and that's Christopher Bell minus 110 over Tyler Reddick. Where's C-Bell starting though? What ended up happening with all of that? Like nothing happened to the race car and he's starting 10th. I missed what happened in that final qualifying lap the other day.
I didn't see it either. So I guess I really didn't pay much mind to the qualifying because it's irrelevant in my opinion.
Right.
But I mean, the only thing that I did realize is Ford absolutely dominated. I think they had the first 8 spots. And then Kyle Larson was the 9th person, which Kyle Larson, going back to Hendrick Motorsports at 9-1, he's our favorite, obviously. But without practice or anything, you're kind of going blind at this. But that right there shows me that they're going to have a ton of speed. And he was one of the fastest cars at Daytona as well. And he's going to be able to, it's going to be a little cooler temperature. So this could be the Kyle Larson, William Byron, Hendrick Motorsports show.
Are they running Louvers today?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. But another thing I was talking about earlier in the week is how much is Hendrick Motorsports going to operate in the gray area now? I mean, let's be honest. Most of these teams are doing things on a weekly basis that are sketchy. So now is Hendrick going to back it off a little bit because they don't want to be totally embarrassed? Because if they get busted another time.
Oh, God.
But they're all doing it. Every team's doing it. It's just now you just got to be more careful. But they also have to win, except for William Byron, who's already in the playoffs, which, I mean, he earned it, but the other teams now are in a position where they have to win,
What was the verdict on what would that help as far as the Louvers being modified? The cooling, helping the engine run cooler?
Well, they did say that. I remember this specifically at Daytona. They said that the Hendrick Motorsports had the coolest running engine of anybody.
See, that
So
was my first thought when I heard about it because I heard they were connected to the radiator system.
yeah, it's what cycles out the air.
Yeah.
So if it's a little smoother, listen, Hendrick Motorsport did this for a gain. Period. End of story. They didn't. This is not an accident. If they didn't get the wrong part, they did this for a reason. It helps. Obviously, they saw somewhere on a dyno or in the wind tunnel that it picked up gain and force. So this isn't an accident. They're not victims here. And neither is Justin Haley. I mean, you're doing this for a reason. They gave you a template to where it had to be cut out so you couldn't go past it. They went past it. It's a ball and strike. It's not a ball strike pull. They gave you a map of basically where you had to be, and they weren't. Period. And there's obviously a gain for it. I don't know what the gain is for. I'm not that smart. That's out of my realm. But if they did it, all four of them, they're guilty. If it was one guy, I'd say, okay, it's just somebody, maybe had a liquid lunch and came back and was doing louvers that day, cut a little too much. You know what I mean? It was a Friday afternoon. But in this situation, all four of them had it and they were all spot on. So I'm going to say guilty.
Yeah. I'm guessing it was picking up a little extra horsepower.
Yes, absolutely. Engine runs cooler. It's going to run faster, and so going back to what I was saying is, so this week are they going to back it off a notch with other things? Because there's obviously other things that you're doing as well that are sketchy or in the gray area, and they can't afford another big hit like this.
I would say at some of these tracks that are coming up that may not tend like here. Yeah, you don't want to get busted for cheating here. I mean, everybody kind of, if you got a fast race car, you can win. And then the races that are coming up on the schedule, they're not going to get busted out on short tracks, things like that, because that's not their strong suit. The places to watch them is when the mile and a half's kick back up. Do they show up with that dominating speed that they've had at all of them so far to start the year? Or do they show up with something that isn't that incredible?
Absolutely. Like last year, the 1 week that Chase Elliott went to the R&D, they took his car. So I really do believe that they got tipped off that the car was going to go to R&D after the race. Like the previous 5 races, he was in the top 5, top 3 every week. That week, I can't remember what track it was. He wasn't even in the top 10. The car had 0 speed.
Was it Las Vegas in the playoffs where he just ran 20 something all day long?
It's no irony that the week that your car's going to R&D, it's now slow. You know what I mean? These teams get tipped off. They know the same people. Hey, your car's going to go to R&D after this race. All right, so you take some stuff away. Maybe some louvers. Maybe the car didn't have them. Because if they said that they ran that car all 2022. So you're telling me that car was at the R&D center in 2022 and you did not see those louvers? You didn't catch it then when you had it in your garage and you were picking the car apart looking for things. You didn't see that? No, they took it off. It wasn't on the car when it went to the R&D center last year. So to say that it was on that car all 2022, you're liars. You knew because you would have got busted then. Or NASCAR is that negligent that they didn't see it. So I don't know which one to go with. And I'm going to say that it wasn't on the car because I'm going to give NASCAR a little more faith in that. So one I don't know if I should, but so going back to where we started, I'm going to go at Hendrick Motorsports today. They led 276 laps here. The 5 to 24, the 48 really struggled here for whatever reason. The 8 at 50 to 1, I'm going to take just for some fun. And I'm going to try to go for the top 5 at plus 700. This is a race where you're going to have to get lucky. So this is the biggest, one of the 5 gambling racetracks you're going to have all year. So this isn't necessarily skill or seeing practice times because we have nothing to go off of. This is blind. So I'm using some analytics from last year's races here. I'm using Daytona and this year's dominance of Hendrick Motorsports. So I'm going to go with the Hendrick Motorsports today. And I like the Barry and LaJoie long shots and Haley. And if you want to go crazy, go to Harrison Burton, who could be fast, or a Ty Gibbs at 80 to 1. And my top three was going to be the 24 car, and the top 3 I'm going to go with Ross Chastain. What do you like?
Well, we have Ross Chastain plus 1,200, Brad Keselowski plus 2,000, Daniel Suarez plus 2,800, Austin Dillon plus 4,000, and Corey LaJoie at plus 6,600. And we also have LaJoie and Barry top 10s at plus 500. So I like both of those. I'm cashing one of those today. Like I can see one of them hitting. So that's basically all I'm rolling with. I mean, I'm a live bet it. I'm sure there will be opportunity once I see, all right, this guy's got a really good ass car, and I don't mind firing then. I typically tend to wait until the final stage, but hell, yesterday I went into the trucks completely nothing. I had given my phone to my son, my oldest son. I was like, scroll through there and pick somebody. And I explained to him what the odds were, everything like that. And he ends up coming back with me, Christian Eckes. And I had talked to him talked about him on the Land Coin Pod on that Friday night about how much I liked him and he looked good at Daytona. So I jumped on him immediately live after I
Awesome.
I was like, this is the fastest truck, I believe, at this place today. I mean, if he gets out front, I think he can keep it out front. Gets shuffled back in traffic a little bit. So I got him at 800 live. Then I grab him at 1800 live back in the
50%.
pack. Yes. I jumped on him again, and sure enough, ended up working out. I mean, I had Sanchez too at 28, I think, live. So
Sanchez was fast too. Yeah.
yeah, I
Well,
mean,
okay, so I guess the $1,000,000 question is, who does your son like today?
I don't know. That's what I was getting ready to.
How do you not go back to the well?
I think I am gonna maybe have a final ad here
Yeah,
after
you
I
might
talk
have
to
to.
him. He spent the night somewhere, and I don't know what time they're gonna be here. So I might just shoot him a text. He knows the Cup drivers, so he can just spit me a name out.
Because you know what? Sometimes at these tracks, that right there is better than anything you could get is luck.
Oh, I called him up as soon as it hit. I'm on the phone over there, and he picks up, and I'm like, "Guess what?" He was like, "Don't tell me that thing hit." And I'm like, "Yeah, it hit." And he was like, "Would you win 1,000?" And I'm like, "Nah, like 400 and something." But you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He
I
wants
was
his
like,
cut. Would you give him 5%?
I got to get him a new gaming PC box for his computer to transfer all of his guts over into. He found on Amazon for like $60. So
Oh,
his
yeah,
knowledge got him a new gaming console
that's
case.
awesome. All right. Well, let us know who he likes today, and we'll throw it out there just for some fun.
Yeah, hell yeah. Let's do it.
All right, Rory. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Hopefully next week all three of us will be back together. But today's biggest winner is my Wi-Fi because I'm not ready to shoot myself right now, and I feel really good about it. And I've seen nothing but green bars the whole time, and my teeth didn't fall out, so it was a great success.
Hell yeah, you're doing it. Now it's time to crush those lattes.
Yeah, good luck today, guys. I'll see you next week, and have a great day. All right, later,
Peace.
Rory.
Later.